All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Mission statement, Allendale Public Schools commit to educate, inspire, and support all students. Amy, you have the roll. Thank you. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public participation process. Members of the audience are welcome to make comments at the time designated on the agenda. Please register on the sign-up sheet and limit your comments to 3 minutes when your name is called. Out of respect for all individuals, please refrain from personal criticism in an open forum. Please refer to policy 167.3 if you have any other questions. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
One thing with the agenda, because this is a working session, but it seems like we're treating it like a regular meeting, do we have like sort of an open meeting for working on different items? Is that something you guys have considered in the past?
Yeah, I mean, typically we set the agenda. I mean, we can add stuff to it, or we email ahead of time. We'll have it on the agenda if there's stuff that you would like to bring up. And it's typically how it. I mean, it's up to the superintendent and the board president to set the agenda.
Okay.
So if there's stuff you want to bring up and have discussed in here, that's always been the way it's worked, is you just bring it up to the president and the superintendent, and we'll get it on the agenda.
Okay. I was just looking for maybe an opportunity to collaborate a little bit on some of the items that we are working through.
Yep.
And,
You mean besides what's on the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
like Josh and I talked, in our last meeting about following Robert's rules for the agendas that are set at regular meetings, not being able to add agenda items. So they're just things that I'd like to have sort of open conversation about.
Another reason for just adding that expectation of all those is to keep it so that it's no surprises. Because if everybody at every meeting showed up and just wanted to discuss different things, then we would consistently have meetings where nobody had information. So if we want to discuss our core, practices for our rules of order, send an email to Kevin and say, I'd like to discuss why we do this. Potentially, it could be answered in an email, or if we need some more discussion, we can put it on the agenda.
Yeah. See, it would just be good in front of, sort of the public to have, I don't know, collaboration and conversation where you stand on this, or I stand on this. So I don't know, maybe there's an opportunity and we can talk about that, or maybe I can meet up with you and Dr. Cooper.
Okay.
I think it would be good.
Yep. No, I like I said, always feel free to send it, and we can talk about it and make sure everybody's on board or informed with that information going into the meeting, so we're not surprising anybody with, the topic that people haven't prepared for.
All right.
Remind the board members to turn the microphones on so people live streaming.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
please.
yeah. You want me to repeat all that?
I think you're good.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Brandon, support by Anna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say the same. Motion passed. First item of discussion, the consideration of a new co-chair for the CEP committee.
Yeah, so our Sex Education Advisory Board is instructed following the statute from the state of Michigan, and it's very specific in our bylaws how many members we have, and again, the state gives you a lot of direction on what the affiliation of those members are. For example, how many parents, how many teachers, you need a nurse, you need a pastor, those kind of things. The person who was the pastor serving on the CAB for, I think, about 4 or 5 years, has stepped down, and we did replace him as the pastor. Matt Mistay, the pastor from Valley Church, is going to serve on the CAB for us. However, being new to the CAB, he was not ready to step into the co-chair role. And so our bylaws say that you have to have 2 co-chairs. One needs to be a teacher or an administrator. Sandy Marsman, who was a teacher in 5th grade here, is one of the co-chairs. And so then we need to fill the other co-chair role. And so we looked at the roster, and knowing that the parent group turns over every 2 years, but the board members don't necessarily, we thought a great choice to be that co-chair would be Liz Rainey. And so I reached out to Liz and asked if she'd be willing to serve in that capacity, and she had said that she would. And it's my understanding they had a meeting last Monday night. This was presented to the CAB board, and I think it was viewed favorably among that group. She is a fine choice for this. But it is very clear in the state statute that the co-chairs must be determined by the school board. So, presenting it here to you tonight, that it's Liz Rainey. If there's any discussion about that, we should have it now. But we will need to have an official vote on this at the April meeting, just so everyone knows. Follow the regulations. I'm very thankful that Ms. Rainey said she put herself out there for that, because she was a great job.
Feels weird to ask you guys to discuss it, but any questions?
Yeah, so any discussion? Anybody got questions for?
I think it's great. Thank you for stepping in that role.
Yeah, like I said, the CAB group was very happy to see Liz step up for that as well, and so that's great, because the group's doing really well. They've had some great lively conversations. They did again this meeting. I don't want to steal Liz's thunder, because I'm sure she'll share at the April meeting. But it's a great move for the CAB itself, but also for the district as a whole. We'll be bringing this back in April for a vote.
Awesome. Anything further? We'll go on to item B, Young 5s through 5th grade math resource.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk through the elementary math curriculum proposal. It's for Young 5s through 5th grade. You do have this slideshow in your board materials. There are some links throughout it too that you'll be able to access for more information as well. So first, I'll just go through kind of a summary of the need, why we are in the place why we're asking for a new math curriculum. We currently are under a contract with Math Expressions. We've been using Math Expressions for 12 years. But that expires at the end of this school year. So with that, we would lose access to all the digital pieces, the digital platform, the consultant support. We would no longer receive any of the student workbooks, manipulatives, and all those other materials. So we either need to renew our contract with Math Expressions again, or select something new. Since we've been using Math Expressions for 12 years, we felt it was important to reevaluate and make sure if this was still meeting the needs of our students, or if another curriculum would better serve our needs. So the first step in our process was we formed a selection team. So all of the team members volunteered to be part of this team. We had 2 teachers from every grade level, Young 5s through 5th grade. And then we had a representative from special education, an EL teacher, our academic coach, and then the 3 elementary principals and myself. So it was a team of 21. The next step in our process was to develop a priority list. So we wanted to first, as a team, develop a list of the things that were most important to us as teachers and that we know are best practices for our students. So we developed together this list of priorities, which you can I won't read through all of them, but you can look through them in more detail later. And then as we reviewed each curriculum, we really measured them up to each of these priorities to make sure that they would fit those best practices in our district priorities. Third step was to decide which curriculum we wanted to review. So we took recommendations from other districts, familiarity with some of these publishers. We used some of their other resources in different subject areas. We looked at what our middle school is currently using, which was Reveal. We looked at Math Expressions again, even though we've been using it for 12 years. They had a new edition coming out, so we wanted to still look at that. So we ended up with those 5 to review. The next step was to actually go through that review process. So the team met for full days, and those days included a presentation from the company. And then after the presentation, we spent a few hours really going through the samples of the resources. And we did a few things with each resource. We completed a curriculum review guide, which is the blue shaded one on top. That's a few pages long, that guide, and you've got access to it through that link. But that curriculum review guide, it was important to use that so that we knew we were looking at each curriculum the same way and that we stayed consistent across all of them with how we were reviewing those so that we could keep the process really consistent and equitable across all of them. And then after that, we reported on some overall impressions, and that's the purple shaded one there. Basically for that, after the review, each grade level team reported out what they felt were strengths and concerns, or any questions or wonderings about that particular curriculum. That way we could make sure that all voices were part of sharing those strengths and concerns. And then the third thing we did was we went back to our priority list, and that's the one that's shaded in yellow, and you have a link to that one as well. But that down the side listed all of those priorities, and then in each column was each of the 5 curriculum, and we would just mark whether or not it included that curriculum or that priority. And then oftentimes there are even links in there so we could see exactly how that was incorporated with that curriculum. So then the team members would take that information back to the rest of their grade level, because there are only 2 representatives from each grade level on the team, but they're representing their larger grade level team. So at their grade level meetings, they were able to share these documents, have some discussion as a grade level, come back with some feedback to the selection team and so on. And our selection team also tried out a couple lessons in their classroom, and then got feedback from their students on how they felt, how they liked that lesson, and so on. So that was a helpful piece too. And then we wanted to narrow down from 5 down to 2, and then we would spend a little more deep reviewing of those final 2. So to narrow down the choices, each of the selection team members took this anonymous survey where all 5 of their curriculum were listed, and they just got to rate each one on a scale from 0 to 3. 0 means I'm not at all interested in this one, and 3 means I'm very interested in this. And they could rank multiple things a 3 if they were very interested in more than one. We were just trying to get it narrowed down at this point. So as you could see, there were a few that really didn't have much interest at all. There were only 2, Reveal and iReady Math, that had responses of 3s, which were very interested. So after seeing those results and showing those to the team decided that we should move forward with Reveal and iReady Math. So those were the 2 we went into the next step with. And then that step is the hexagon tool. So the hexagon tool is a pretty robust and time-consuming process, so we weren't going to do that with all 5, but the 2 that we had narrowed it down to. So the hexagon tool, there's a link to it there on this slide as well. But the hexagon tool has 6 domains. It's like a rubric that reviews those 6 domains. The ones that are in green are all related to the resource itself. So those things are like evidence, So, what evidence is there that this is an effective resource? So we reviewed a bunch of the evidence. Usability, there's a bunch of questions that get at how usable is this resource for students and for teachers. And then supports, what type of professional learning is involved, what type of support is in place for implementation. And then the 3 blue domains are related to our district. So one of them is capacity. So a bunch of questions that get at, do we have the capacity to implement this? Like financially, do we have the right staff? Do we have the right technology? Questions like that. Fit all relates to, does it fit with our district priorities? Does it fit with other initiatives that are in place in our district, like MTSS? We wanted to make sure it would align with that. And then need, does it meet the need of our students and teachers? So we went through that rubric, and again, you can see all of our scores and responses on that link there. But the chart on the side just summarizes the scores. Each of those domains is worth 5 points. So the total score is out of 30. So Reveal scored a total of 29, and iReady scored a total of 25. So then that led us into our decision. And the team selected Reveal Math as the best fit based on, that was the one that the entire 21 people said they were very interested in, and it scored quite high on the hexagon tool. So just a few highlights that stood out to us as why we chose this curriculum maybe over others. We really felt it was very engaging. It had a lot of relevant information that would spark students' interest. One thing that we really loved most about this curriculum is that every single lesson there's 2 options for teachers to follow. They can follow the guided exploration, which is much more teacher-directed, like I do, we do, you do type of a model. Or on the other page, there's the activity-based delivery, and that's much more like student exploration, more inquiry-based. And so teachers can decide what's going to work best for their class. And they can change it up from lesson to lesson, so students get some different experiences, and teachers can then work, whichever one they feel would work best for them in their class. So we really liked that option. There's also multitude of practice resources at a variety of different levels, both to reinforce, to build proficiency, and for extending thinking for those students who are catching on really quickly. We also loved that each lesson has a math replay video, and that's just a quick 1 to 2 minute video that explains the math of the lesson and can be viewed at home from the student's digital site. So we thought that would be a great way to engage parents in the math. Lots of great assessments included in this program too that are both print and online. That was important to our team. Also, each unit has a STEM project, and those are fun projects at the end of the unit that really bring all the math together into a real world, authentic application. So that was another highlight. This has a Young Fives piece. Not all of the curriculum that we reviewed had Young Fives, and we wanted our Young Fives to be aligned with the rest of our grade levels as well. So the Young Fives component is called Building Blocks, and it's very play-based, hands-on, lots of manipulatives, very engaging. Another piece is that this comes with a digital resource called Alex Adventure, and this is an adaptive learning program where students get personalized lessons based on how they're doing, and it gives them instruction in a very engaging, kid-friendly way with fun characters, and then they have a lot of opportunities for practice with immediate feedback. Also, this resource had a lot of great support for our teachers. So every unit has videos that teachers can watch that go through the math of the lesson of that unit. They give tips for teaching it effectively. They go through strategies. They go through how to use the manipulatives. So there is a lot that the teachers can utilize to feel confident in teaching that unit. And then another really big plus is that this is the same curriculum that our middle school selected last year. So it might sound familiar to you. We presented this one last year for middle school. So it was exciting that elementary made the same choice. And that way we have alignment in our curriculum for math from young fives through 8th grade, which we haven't had before. So that was a plus as well. The cost of this curriculum, you have a link to the exact quote there. It's a 6-year contract. It's $273,972. I listed underneath there what that all includes, because it's all of the teacher materials, student materials, digital. It includes classroom manipulatives, and it also includes all of the professional learning. And then just to give you, I didn't include the quotes from all 5 of them that we looked at, but they did range from about $233,000 up to $396,000. So Reveal was actually the second in the order from least to most expensive. So then that brings us to our final step tonight, which is the board approval. So our team is recommending Reveal K-5 along with building blocks for young fives to begin using in fall of 2025. And then I did include just some other links that you can look at later, a nice overview brochure for Reveal and building blocks. And then the digital access, that link gives you a username and password so you can access the digital curriculum, and it provides some directions as well for how to navigate that so you can see what's in there. Any questions?
The STEM part at the end of those chapters, is that done in class?
Yep, there's days built in to the pacing guide for those projects.
Thanks for sharing the detailed process, so,
You're welcome.
from beginning to end, so that when people ask us even to how it even comes to fruition, that you would even propose this to us. We have a good understanding of the lengthy process and the amount of people that are involved with that, so thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that really excite me about this. So one of the things that I really appreciated was the way you guys approach the selection process, that you engage subject matter experts who were going to be responsible to teach it, and the results are just awesome.
Yeah.
That there was sort of
Yeah.
unanimous support for Reveal.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, it was
And
exciting.
like you mentioned, the continuity from, you know, the young 5 through 5th grade and then moving into high school, I think that's great and going to position our students for success.
Yeah.
Some of the questions that I had, did we, or have we tracked data on how we did with math expressions to see how successful our students were with that as they
Yeah.
progress through the grades? That maybe we can capture that and then see how much more successful we are with Reveal.
Yeah, we track our math data every year, and that was one reason why we didn't just automatically go with math expressions again, because we haven't been getting as good a results with our math as we would like. So we thought it was time to maybe revisit the curriculum we were using, see if there might be something that would better engage our students in the math.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
So, so does Reveal, do they provide resources for us so that we can see what our trend is for our student success in math?
So, yep.
Or are we going to continue to track
Yeah.
that and then compare it against? what
We
our
track
experience
that
was?
with multiple different assessments. So we can look at our M-STEP data, which is taken 3rd grade and above. We also use iReady Math, which is a benchmark assessment we do 3 times a year. So we always look at that. But then Reveal also has assessments that if the assessments are taken digitally online, it produces some really nice reports where you can get all the grade levels data together, so you can look at each grade level separately or individual classrooms, individual students, and we can their data it drills down to standard, so you can look at which standards are strong, which standards are not as strong, so you have a good idea of where your teaching was real successful and where you might need to put more time or a different approach. because we can see each standard that way, so.
Yeah,
That would be
no,
nice.
it's, like I said, it's great. Are there other schools in the area using Reveal that our teachers can maybe
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
collaborate with a little bit and they
Yep.
can share success stories?
Probably the closest district is Comstock Park. I've been in contact with their curriculum director already to get information from her, and she said we're welcome to go over there or send teachers over there to observe lessons and so on. There's a few other districts who are reviewing, like in Ottawa County, who are reviewing it currently, and will make a decision. And then our middle school, we were able to talk with them and actually look at their data this year on iReady. They showed some really good growth this year, which was exciting with the new curriculum, so we felt confident about it for elementary too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The customization for the students' learning style. So it's teacher-driven. Are we going to look at, or has there been conversation about sort of assessing the learning styles for our different students and make sure that we tailor Reveal to them to get not just the best outcome for everybody,
Yeah.
but on an individual level?
Yeah, do you mean like, because there's a couple of options, those
Yeah.
two paths? So
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, really good.
every lesson ends with an exit ticket, it's called. So every lesson, the kids do a little question. It's like a little mini quiz, I guess. But teachers can give that after every lesson, and they can know right away then if that lesson was successful or not. So if they're trying both of the styles out, they might see that they're both pretty effective. They might see that for their class, one tends to be more effective than the other, and then they can make their decisions based on that. So,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
okay.
And Brandon, I would add that we've done a lot of professional development over the last few years on differentiated instruction, so help our teachers understand how to present material in a variety of different ways, because as you said, each child has a different learning style. And so we've done a lot of professional development work through that, through SIOP, lesson planning, which also gets at how do you create lessons to meet different learning styles. Some are visual, some are auditory. So this kind of all ties into the work that we've done the last few years, so.
Yeah,
Right.
so valuable.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Yep. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Item C, bus purchase.
All righty, so we've been having this conversation pretty much since the beginning of the year. The board heard a presentation back in the fall about a bus grant that was available. We'd taken advantage of this, I believe, 2 years ago to purchase some buses, and we had an opportunity again this year. And so the board approved going out for the grant, and we were awarded that grant. And then this had been in the bond proposal, but we decided to take it out the second time we went out for the bond. So we made a commitment to purchasing these through the general fund. And now we have our bids. So it's a little bit unique. Couple of things. These aren't all full passenger buses. Two of them are special needs buses that have can accommodate wheelchaired students. And so they only seat 53 students, but they're needed. The two that we currently have they need to be sent to the tuna can factory or whatever you do with old buses. But, and then the other unique thing was in talking with Holland Transportation, one of the things he explained to us is that with the new buses coming in, there was going to be the new tariff, which is $2,500 per bus. But if we hurried and made this order, we could get, save some money there if we got the order in. The other thing is they had two 2025 buses, same specs, same everything, just brand new, that we could get for $10,000 less. And so, that side of me says, yeah, if I can save 10 grand, get the same bus, let's do it. And so your proposal is for two 2025 77-passenger Bluebird buses, one 2026 77-passenger Bluebird bus, and two 53-passenger special needs accommodation buses, 2026. And I'm looking at Mike to make sure I'm getting that right. Did I? Yep. All right. Thanks, Mike. So again, and if you look, what's really exciting then, so that you can see It is going to cost us, let me slide down here. It's gonna cost us $568,354 for the 5 buses, but we're saving $222,000 from the grant. So the grant is covering $222,000 of that of the total cost, which would have been $790. So, yeah, about 30% of the cost of the buses is being covered by the grant. So that is the proposal. We'll need an official vote in April, but I wanted to present and see if I had any questions.
So the bus purchase is out of the capital fund, right? I think you said general fund
Is this
earlier.
capital projects or general fund?
Capital
Either-
project.
Yes, capital
Okay.
projects, yep.
I think I read in here that we need to place this order by today to avoid the tariffs and get the,
Yeah, yes, and
Did we-
so I told them to go ahead and make the commitment, of course pending a board vote, but because the board voted to, go for the grant, and we decided that, okay, we're not gonna do it in the bond, we'll do it through general fund, I felt kind of comfortable, because this board's had a conversation a couple times about this purchase, so, yeah, we wanted to lock it in, especially those 2025s, because if we didn't say, yeah, we'll take them, some other school's gonna want them, so.
right,
we-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But it
the,
still takes an official board vote in April.
right. Yeah, so in addition to the grant award, we also have sort of the being frugal. We saved additionally for
Yep.
the tariffs and by securing those
Yep, we saved
2025.
about, so if we got 2,500 per bus, that's about 12,500 in tariffs that we're saving, and then I think it was $10,000 per bus by getting the 2025, so it's another 20,000 we're saving. So about $30,000 we saved by making this commitment.
And these are all replacements?
Yes,
Or are this-
yep,
And do we have the propane, because they're all propane, right?
yes, and we have, the last purchase we made was 7 propane buses, so.
So we have the
Yep,
infrastructure.
and we have a propane filling station at the bus garage already.
Good, great.
Yeah, and I think we kind of had to we bought some used ones a couple years ago, because we had to replace a few too, if I remember
I
correctly.
think the used ones we bought were the shorter buses.
Well, that could be,
Yeah.
For 77 passengers.
Oh, were they 77?
Yeah, that's what I thought, but we had some that got red tagged, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it kind of goes with turning over buses, and they got to be replaced at some point.
Yeah. And if you look at the quote, you'll see that these buses are a little more expensive, like when you look at the quote, you're not really looking at apples, because they're not all the Bluebird buses. The Holland buses, the Bluebird buses are the ones that we've been using, and what's good is to have all the same bus line, because then you order parts and things like that, and as buses get older, you start stripping parts from one to put in another. So that's why, even though it's a little bit more than some of the other bus lines, these are the premium buses that we really like using, the Bluebirds.
Safer technology too.
Yep.
And also, Thomas, that quote for Thomas is, they're 77 passenger, but they do not even provide propane, and the grant makes it that we have that.
That's all I have on the buses.
All right, any more discussion? Item D, new course, AP European History.
Yeah, I get to turn this over to another colleague.
yep.
This is Murphy from the high school.
Yeah, so we, I guess, are excited to continue to offer more rigorous courses and just more options for our students. I'm excited that this one, we're not going to have to change staffing. We already have the expertise within our staff. It's AP European History, so AP is the Advanced Placement National Program, transfers to many colleges, universities for college credit, so it's kind of almost money in their pocket. But then even beyond that, just to offer those rigorous offerings, especially for our upperclassmen. We're trying to avoid the kids getting to senior year and wanting to have an easy senior year. We want to keep upping their skills, especially a course like this where they're going to be focusing on reading, writing, and I think they're studying history, so definitely that reasoning, which I think is really important in the world. One of the things that we've been working through is we had our college and career day last week, the 13th, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. one of the things we've been working on is that connection to post-secondary. And I think when you offer those rigorous offerings there at the end of their high school career, they're not going to go from, okay, here's school, and then dip down and go easy breezy, and then step into the real world and then hit a brick wall. We don't want that. So we've been working on a lot of different things to help them get ready for post-secondary, whatever that life is going to be. And I think in general, I wrote it on my paper here, is to keep them in that mode that you can do hard things. This is, I think it's really cool. I wrote down our course offerings for social studies. Freshmen, the kids take world history. Sophomore year, U.S. history. Junior year, government and econ. Senior year, they don't have to take a social studies class. And all 4 years, if we pass this, they'll have an AP option. So we have AP World History as freshmen. We had 4 sections of that last year. We're looking to have 3 this year, which is where we'll have some space for this European history if it passes. We have AP US History, AP Econ, and then now this AP European History. And we've seen some kids going to take the virtual class options for AP because we really don't have teachers teaching them, but this will bring them in a classroom where they're able to do that social learning. Beth explained the selection tool. We use the same thing for this course, not necessarily for the course description because that's all written by AP. We follow the exact, it's called the CED, course and exam description. We follow exactly as it is. We don't add anything, we don't take anything away so that the kids have the best shot at scoring what they need to on that exam. The book, it really is what you'll see, that selection tool. So we're looking at the evidence, usability, supports, need, fit, and capacity. AP puts out a list of acceptable books. We picked one that has the most familiarity. Our teacher, Mr. Ben Tubman, taught this at a previous district and used this text as well. It's an updated edition. The one tagline that I liked is they have to have a college level text, and one of the taglines for this book was they put the story back in history, and I just thought that was nice for our students. You know, it's not just a book with a whole bunch of history documents. It weaves a story. You have in your documents, we're looking at just getting the digital license. Students aren't, you can see the text right there, it's really heavy. Students really don't carry around textbooks all that often anymore, so we're really looking at the digital license for it, which is only $50 a kid. If we were to run 2 classes, it's about $12.50 a year. So, questions for me?
It sounds like you guys have some pretty good interest in this.
We do.
That's awesome.
We do. Yep. And it continues to grow, and I can even credit, like, coming down from the middle school, the kids are coming in wanting to engage in those harder things, and we want to keep that rolling. So.
Thank you. I think anytime that we can offer our students an opportunity, anytime that we can offer our students an opportunity for more challenging coursework and basically college credit at the same time is a great idea. So I appreciate you looking into this and bringing it to us.
Thanks. Anything else?
Any other questions?
If there are more opportunities to offer these challenges to the students, I think that'd be great.
That's the plan. Thank you. Right.
Thank you. Got a lot of credit to Mrs. Murphy, her leadership, and a lot of credit to Mr. Tubman and his enthusiasm for wanting to do this, because it's a lot of work for the teacher too. So I appreciate Mr. Tubman putting himself out there to do this. It means a lot.
Thank you. Item E, new course, middle school CTE.
Yep, I get to turn it over to a colleague again, Mr. Plain. We have a very exciting opportunity here, and Mr. Plain is at the forefront of bringing this to our attention, so thank you.
Yeah, if you guys thought European history was cool, just wait to hear about this. So I'm super excited to present this. This is something that's relatively new to us, kind of came to us a couple of weeks ago. I've had it in my back pocket just waiting to talk about it, so I'm happy to be here in front of you guys to talk about it. I gave you guys all this folder, if you could open that up. The stuff on the left side is just for, I'm not going to go through that, that's just for you to peruse, maybe on nights that you can't fall asleep or whatever, but there's some good information in there. The stuff on the right, if you wouldn't mind pulling that out, I'm going to go through that stuff with you guys briefly. Before we get into the nuts and the bolts of it, I want to share kind of the background where this program came from and some of the players that are associated with it, because it is a big program. So MIRA, it's a organization that was started in Virginia, and it stands for Manufacturing and Engineering Education Reimagined for All. That's a mouthful. But basically what they do is they help schools K through 12 to implement more STEM, more manufacturing and engineering into K through 12 programs down south. Really popular in Virginia. Not so much in Michigan yet. But they've got a strong foothold on, kind of got the curb on this manufacturing engineering. To the point where they install labs, they create curriculum, they train teachers, kind of the whole gamut of engineering and manufacturing within K-12. If you can see at the bottom of here, they also talk about teacher training network, which I'll come back to in a little bit. But if you want to flip the page to the second one, the Department of Defense, another huge player, they've seen lately a lot of, there's been a lack of people coming into the workforce with manufacturing and engineering knowledge and expertise and education. So they have the money and MIRA has the knowledge, and they want to partner together and implement more manufacturing and engineering into middle school, which is really cool. So they are ready to rock and roll. They want to get this going as of this fall. So that's why I'm here today, because they want to get some things moving here. Skip that third page, going on to the fourth page. You can see that colorful funnel at the top. Prior to that black piece at the top, the funnel into manufacturing careers has just kind of started at the high school level with the CTE programs for those who were involved in CTE programs. And they either entered the workforce there, went to community colleges or universities and pursued that avenue. What the DoD wanted to do is open it up to more students earlier. And that's that top level, that black middle school level. So their thought and their pilot system that they're beginning is to open up manufacturing and engineering to grades 6 through 8 and introduce it to them and everything that it entails, and let them decide, yeah, I think this is kind of cool. I kind of want to pursue this a little bit more and get into high school and seek out some of that CTE stuff. Or decide, nah, that's really not for me, which is fine. I'd rather have them learn it in the middle school and not spend time and money in the future to realize that they don't like it, kind of like what I did in my first couple years in college. So that's that top layer that they're looking to form, and they're looking to do it as a pilot. The DoD wanted to happen in Michigan because I guess there's a lot of defense manufacturing in Michigan, and they wanted to focus on Michigan as a place to start their pilot program. So MIRA and the DoD and some other players came into Michigan to the ISDs and said, pitch us. Why should we start this pilot program with you guys? So our tri-county ISD of Muskegon, Kent, and Ottawa all got together and said, hey, this is pretty sweet. Let's get together and show them why West Michigan deserves this opportunity for this pilot program. They did, and they won that bid. So the DoD and MIRA are setting up pilot programs within a couple of middle schools in the tri-county area. If you can see the top of that next page, the curriculum FAQs, before I get too far ahead of myself, but there's the curriculum is a 45 total week curriculum. That would look like all 6th graders would have it for 9 weeks, and then 7th graders would get it for 18 weeks, one semester, and then 8th graders get it for 18 weeks as well. And you can see some of the curriculum that's included: CNC machining, welding, workplace readiness, just a lot of really cool things included in this turnkey curriculum. So what they did, the Department of Defense says, like I mentioned, we got the money. Let's go, let's do this. So they have set money aside to start in the bottom half of that page, a regional training center, which I kind of alluded to in that front page, which is what MIRA likes to put together. And what this would look like is it's a training facility in Kent County. At the ISD, they would take a classroom and equip it with all the equipment necessary to teach the kids about manufacturing and engineering. It would be the same equipment that we would have in a classroom. The teachers would go there this summer, learn how to teach it, and then go back periodically throughout the school year as like continued education for the teachers. All free. Department of Defense is paying for it. They're also paying to put labs into 2 different middle schools. $125,000 per lab is what they're funding to put into middle schools. Unfortunately, one of them is going to Muskegon and one of them is going to Kent County. However, Ottawa ISD is like, man, this is really cool. We got to get on board with this. We can't miss out on this opportunity. So Ottawa is in the process of currently getting fundings through grant to fund this for us. ISD reached out to me and said, hey, we got this opportunity, interested? Heck yeah, I'm interested. Dave Searles came over, toured the building, we talked a little bit more and said, yeah, let's do it. Let's go to your board, we'll get the funding, see if the board will approve it. We want to get this going at Allendale Middle School, which is super cool. So if you flip the page again, what is the commitment for us? At the top, it kind of shows some of the equipment. Later in that packet that you pulled out, there's a folded over piece of paper with some more of the equipment. But at the bottom, the regional commitment, what does that mean for us? How much is this going to cost us? The first year, nothing. It's not going to cost us anything. They're putting $125,000 in. They're doing the regional training center, all of that stuff. The Mira school labs, which would be us, we would need a classroom space. We have it. Check. We would need a teacher. We have them. Check. Upfit the classroom. We don't need to do it. All the machines run off of our current electric. We don't need to add any more electric. There's no additional cost for that. There is Mira Lab annual subscriptions and then maintenance, repair, and consumables that come with the machines, and they're estimating that total to be about $10,000 to $12,000 a year. That's not the first year. The first year they pay for all that stuff, so that would be year 2 and beyond. I will say, however, I got an email from a parent at Spring Lake last week who said, hey, my kid's a straight A student, but we're looking for him to get pushed a little bit more. We need some more STEM stuff. What do you have for STEM stuff? We're looking to move him to a different district. Before this, I would have had to say, we don't have anything better than what Spring Lake has. But I mentioned this to him and said, hey, there's some hoops I got to jump through, but I'm going to the board on this. We're looking at funding. But if this all pans out, this is what we're going to look at doing next year. And he's like, I'm in. Let's meet. When can we talk? He's coming in Thursday to talk more about this. So that's just one example of a student that could potentially come over for this program. And we haven't even started advertising. It hasn't even been approved yet. So I can imagine after that first year of the pilot program, we get this out with the Galapagos and just throw it out about how awesome this is and what Allendale Middle School and this new pilot program, the first one in the state of Michigan, nation really. I got to believe we're going to have some kids that are going to come in to Allendale, to the district, just for this program alone. So it should pay for itself, would be my imagination. So if we flip, we don't need that last one, the difference, we'll skip that. If you want to open up, again, just some explanation of some of the machines that would come in. A lot of these machines are very lightweight, so we can move them in and out. If we're not using them, we'll put them in storage so they're out of harm's way. The heaviest one would be that it's got like a 4-filament 3D printer, 65 pounds. That's one we could potentially leave there if we're going to use it often. Otherwise, we'll get it out of there. There's a mock-up. That would be the teacher station mock-up. Not necessarily what ours would look like, but something similar. The nice part about all these machines is they're all web-based applications. They run on web-based applications. We don't need to buy any extra computers. Our students' Chromebooks will work on all of these devices. So really, if we get approval, we get these machines brought in, we train up our teacher, and we're ready to rock and roll in the fall. It's really, really exciting. I'm pretty fired up about it.
I have a question about it. Is there a limit to how many students can take this class?
They recommended about 22 kids per class, but we've got a teacher that would potentially be teaching this all day, every day. So he does that right now with all of our 6th graders, so all of our 6th graders would have this. Our 7th graders, we're going back and forth. Is this something we want to force all of our 7th graders? Or if kids know after 6th grade, I'm more of an art kid, then cool. Now we load you up with a semester of art instead of manufacturing. Same thing in the 8th grade level. Yeah. Any more questions?
Really cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Thank you.
I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out the Department of Defense, like how that fit in, so thank you for explaining that, why they went.
Yeah, they, you guys were in the meeting too. They mentioned something like they're currently building 2 atomic submarines per year, I believe, right? But they want to up that to like 15, but they just don't have people coming out of the workforce. They don't have the minds to do that yet. And they're getting frustrated. Like, we need more people in manufacturing and engineering. And that's what's kind of started this whole process.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity for kids, I forgot to turn this on earlier, but I mean, as far as like just that traditional learning where they can get more hands-on and learn that kind of stuff at a younger age, I don't know, it's really cool. I can't say that enough, but
Yeah,
thanks for finding this, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect for middle school. You gotta be busy.
Yeah.
You're working on something.
Is there talk of continuing this through the high school possibly, or?
One step at a time.
I just didn't know if that was the goal of the IS.
I don't want to throw Audra under the bus here, but I mean, if,
We've had those conversations.
So it would really fit into what we already have and get kids started.
Yeah, Mr. Vanderlaan and I met with Mr. Searles, actually before this conversation started, and to review what we currently offer our high school students for CTE classes around engineering, and the possibility, should the bond pass in May, and we build a new industrial technology classroom, being able to expand the offerings that we have within the school day and possibly even after school during their third session. So yes, this is an ongoing conversation. We are definitely trying to create more CTE opportunities for our students right here in Allendale.
Awesome.
cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Travis.
On to item F, the salary scales.
Yep, we talked about this before this was coming, and Mr. Vanderlaan's here to discuss, where we're at with this. Again, it comes out of the ORS, Office of Retirement Services, and again, I'll just let Troy explain that. So, I get to turn it over to one of my colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Great introduction. This is not as cool as DOD and Department of Defense stuff, like making stuff. How cool is that? But thanks for showing me up again, Travis. Always happens. Tough act to follow. But really, this is a continuation of the great work that you did a few months ago. And I want to start out with a huge thank you when you approved Dr. Cooper's salary schedule. That got the ball rolling. And through that approval, you allowed us to use Dr. Cooper's salary schedule as a template to then build the 7 tiers you have in front of you in that paperwork. And you can see that on page 2 and 3 of the packet. And so what that allowed us to do is build salary schedules under the guidance and advice of the Office of Retirement Services through the Michigan State Department. And so ORS, and you probably have heard this and definitely heard me a few months ago, is recommending public schools create board-approved salary and hourly wage schedules. And why is that? Well, for this sole reason, to ensure proper pension planning and funding after retirement. And what we've seen over the past couple of years with ORS is groups, districts that have employees that are not under a salary schedule or a wage schedule, well, they could face a reduced pension or even a pause on repension up to months and even years. So imagine our employees going to retire. They worked very hard there in those years. They want to retire, and all of a sudden they don't have a salary or wage schedule. They can either jeopardize their pension amounts or even their start time when they do retire. It's a really big deal. So in a sense, thank you, board, for helping us save our employees with that approval a few months ago with Dr. Cooper's salary schedule. Now, one thing, too, with these schedules, we want to build them competitive, and so we want to make sure we still reflect the district's strategic goals of attracting and retaining high-quality talent that we have under Dr. Cooper's leadership, but also still maintain fiscal responsibility. That's important, and I think we've done a very good job of that. And so really, last but not least, just to set up for the vote of next month in April, this proposal for salary and wage schedules positions those that haven't had a wage schedule or a salary schedule into 7 tiers based on responsibilities, qualifications, essential job functions, education, certification, and leadership impact within the district. So I just want to present that proposal to you. And then really just be here if you have any questions.
So this is very similar to the exercise that we went through for those of you who were here when we did the last teacher contract. And we moved them from, we put steps and lanes back in the contract. And what we did, what will happen with these wage scales is that we will take an employee's current salary and these scales all project a 4% increase for next year. And then they will be placed somewhere on here. And so, you know, a building principal might be on step 5 based on their salary scale, and then they'll go up to 6 the next year, and so on and so on. We don't know, every employee doesn't know exactly where they're at on the scale right now, because we have to go through and place them all so they know what to expect. But what is nice is once they're placed on the scale, then they know, right? Then they see, okay, here's the progression. And it is important to remember too that ORS wants you to project these out for 5 years. That's why it says it's through 2029.
Yep.
But depending on the budget, right? Like, we don't know what the state's going to do with finances. We don't know what the federal government's going to do with finances. We believe that, you know, we're pretty good for next year. But say the year after we find out, okay, we're taking a financial hit, maybe 4% isn't the right number, we can always modify the schedule. This board has the right to come back next year and say, no, we need to adjust that to a 3% raise. Or maybe maybe the state wins the lottery and they say, okay, then we can make 5% increases. So this isn't set in stone that it's a 4% increase, but it's a good starting point for us.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
How does career progression work? So if someone moves from one position into another, how do we map them across tiers?
Yeah, so there's
And
a lot
I apologize for my coughing. I won't show
No,
up
it's
without
okay,
water.
Brandon, thank you. Do you mean exclusively to these 7 tiers or overall in school?
Overall in the school. So if I'm a tier 3 employee and I'm going to school to earn a master's degree or an advanced degree,
Yep.
and I have interest in a position and you know that becomes available, how am I going to get mapped
Right.
to the new tier? Is it just I was a level 5, now I come over to a level 5?
Yeah.
And for new hires, how are we going to assess that and make sure we're bringing people in at the right tier, the right step? I guess the tier is kind of defined, but the right step to make sure we're competitive, but also that we have equity with pay for our whole staff.
Yep. Yeah, great questions, and that's what we do together in terms of, well, what degrees and certifications are required for a position, and you mentioned tier 3, so those are our assistant principals. So for assistant principals, they most likely require previous teaching experience, and then most of the time they are working on a master's, they have earned a master's in educational leadership, and then so they start in that role, and then we would pick per the step, and I'm glad that Dr. Cooper clarified the steps aren't necessarily years of service, but we can range that step because they may have prior experience. They might have been assistant principal in another district, or maybe even a principal, and they want to come to our district as an assistant principal. So we would gauge what they have been making, and we will still take years of experience into play, degrees, certifications, and that type of quality leadership experience to decide where they fit competitively on the steps within that tier. And then they can jump a tier if they maybe gain additional endorsements, they might gain additional degrees, they may have years of experience as an assistant principal, and then, oh, okay, Allendale now opened up a principal position, I'm going to apply for that. And then once they have that title, they would move into that next tier. And we would decide then where to place them on that step as well.
Okay, yeah, good. You addressed one of my questions, if you could skip steps. And then have we documented guidelines on how we're gonna have employees move through the progression? Do we have that documented just to make sure that we have consistent application across the team?
Yeah, and once there, as Dr. Cooper shared, Brandon, once we place them based on their salaries, we're working through that, then each year they would be able to move up a step. And again, that's based off of how we're doing. How's our performance evaluations? Are we doing a great job? Are we seeking out better improvement for ourselves in PD? And so that can take into account on that next step move. Now, maybe Troy Vanderlaan is not doing very good, and I need to be put on a plan. I'm working with Dr. Cooper to really start to assess and hone my skills. I need to attend additional training. Maybe then I stay at a step. But for the most part, we're always working to improve and support our team so they move on to the next step.
Last question. If you are, let's say you're mapped into a tier in your step 15, do you still have the ability to get sort of cost of living increases, or is the dollar amount that's set, that's the maximum for that tier and step?
Yeah, what do we do when you reach your top, your max? And usually then we'd be working with Dr. Cooper, and if it's a union or for this group, we'd be working with a group to say, do we do a cost of living increase? Maybe we can do an off-schedule payment to give a little boost, right? So yeah, we always have some options on what to do when they hit their max in their tier at that step rate.
Yeah, we don't want to lose the superstars because.
Right, sure. That's
Well,
right.
and we designed these with growth in mind, and so when we looked at the employees in each tier, there's nobody that's like 1 or 2 steps away from the top. We're 4 or 5 years out from anybody getting close to the top, and so that gives us time. If we have to add more years, then we could do that.
Any other questions or discussions? All right, we'll move on to public comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you, Troy. Ronnie Allen.
Good evening. I'm Ronnie Allen, Allendale. I just wanted to bring up a concern that I had. One of my friends was the middle school cheer coach, Tina DeVries, and it was brought to my attention that there was some attention brought to one of the bond proposal boards and the pictures that had come out, and there was a pretty significant difference in the picture that was taken and the picture that is on the poster. So I was just going to pass these out. You guys can kind of share them because I don't really have enough. The original one is this one, and it is a little bit smaller, and I personally needed glasses to see the difference. Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. And then the bottom one is the poster. And I guess, you guys can look at it. But I know it was discussed, whether there needed to be oversight of the marketing firm. And I just wanted to my biggest concern is there are middle school girls that were affected by this, and there was some upset. And there are subtle differences when you're looking at them from a distance. Like I said, I had to put glasses on to look at it. It's more obvious in person or on your phone or whatever, but there's one girl that looks significantly different, and I know that affected her. So I just wanted to make sure that there was attention brought to that and that it was noted, and that's a concern that I have. Because we're spending, sounds like about $10,000 of money on marketing, and this is one of the products of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. That's the end of the list. Is there anybody else who would like to? Janine.
Hi, Janine Gasper from Allendale. I wanted to, first of all, please say yes to the AP European. My son has taken freshman, and now he's a sophomore, and he absolutely loves anything AP. He challenges himself. He's like, I'm going to take all the AP classes I can. And it's just, he even comes home and he's like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. And then he's like, I got to go study. And then he goes downstairs, he's very motivated by that. So just please say yes to the AP. And then FYI, I founded an engineering curriculum at Catholic Central. It's still running there. So if you want to pick my brain or anything, I think that the opportunity that the middle school has is amazing. I know there's a lot of opportunities at the tech center that'll really beautifully jive with that. So I wanted to offer that to you. But yes, AP, go.
Thank you.
Engineering, good too.
Anyone else? Then can I have a motion to adjourn at 7:05?
I make a motion to adjourn at 7:05 PM.
Motion by Anna,
Support.
support by Liz. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Motion pass. Thank you, everyone.
That's very good.